Nothing helps a bad mood like spreading it around. Hello, welcome to my channel. Another bibliophile reads. My name is Greg, and today I'm doing Reader in a Bad Mood tag. It was originally created by Robert G., reader of books, and I was tagged by Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics. I think I was tagged by a few other people a while ago, and I'm just now getting around to doing it. Well, anyway, this is what Robert says about his tag. Generally speaking, readers are a patient, tolerant, and kindly breed, but anyone can have a bad day. The following prompts are for readers going through something, who find themselves quietly growling among the stacks. Prompt number 1. If you were invited to a social function, how do you respond? A. You decline the invitation by phone. Patiently explain you are spending the evening reading, then quickly hang up. B. You decline the invitation and make a personal emergency which requires you to leave town immediately for an unknown period of time. C. You don't respond and instead cover all the windows with blackout curtains and ignore the doorbell. All those solutions are pretty good. I guess the closest to me would be A, politely decline. I am not a socializing person. I am an introvert, and I like being alone with my wife, my cats, and my books. That is the perfect life. Going out to social events really does not cut the mustard with me. Now, my wife is a little more socially outgoing than I am. She is involved in a weekly card game, and she goes out with the neighbors every Monday afternoon and plays cards. They used to invite me to the card games, but I kept politely declining because I really don't get the concept of playing cards. It is not amusing in the least. And I just don't like sitting around a table talking to my neighbors. Now, my neighbors are fine people, but they're not my kind of people. They are not book people. So when it comes to socializing with them, yep, every now and then I will do that. Instead of playing cards, I'm more inclined to the invitations of, do you want to go out to the pub and get a beer and a burger? That happens occasionally. And on those occasions, I will sometimes accept the invitation, but not always. Prompt number 2. Have you ever tossed a book to the ground in disgust, or thrown a book out the window, or shouted insults to a book? Yes, I have. One of the most memorable books that I hated was My Brilliant Life by Eran Kim, a novel translated from the Korean. I read it in 2022 because I was a BookTube prize for translated literature, and this book was assigned to me to read and judge. On the surface, it is the story of a teenage boy with pagoria. Now, pagoria is the disease which makes people prematurely age. So even though he is technically a teenager, he is physically very much an old man. And the narrator knows he does not have long to live. And he wants to make a goodbye present to his parents, which is sort of a memoir of photographies and memories of their life together, of their love together, how much their parents loved each other and loved him, their son. And I found it rather cloyingly annoying and sickeningly sweet and overly emotional. Any story about a kid dying of a lethal disease is just not going to be a very great story, in my humble opinion. Not the kind of story I would ever read. And there was one quote in that book which really, truly made me want to throw my Kindle across the room because I was reading it on my Kindle. I had checked out the book from the local library. And I may not get the quote exactly right, but the sentiments are there. And the sentiment is this: a placard. What does every great kid have in common? Great parents. So this is really a story of the love of a child to his parents. And a little bit of a disclaimer: I really had no love for my parents. My parents really had no great love for me. We were just a family living together, getting through times. And when we got older, we just moved apart because that's what some people do in life. And this is why I wanted to throw this book so far across the room, I would never see it again if it hadn't been on my Kindle. Prompt number 3. Do you think reading is a legitimate excuse to avoid doing things you really should be doing, like the dishes, going for a walk, or extinguishing a house fire? Well, in some cases, yes, reading is a very good excuse to not be doing those things that you're supposed to be doing. The one thing that I'm supposed to be doing that I really cannot avoid is feeding the cats. I have 4 cats, and if I don't feed them, they will not let me read because they'll be all over me, telling me in their not so polite cat way is, "Human, cats are hungry. Feed us." So I always have to feed the cats. That's a must do. Now, some of the other things you can put off, such as doing the dishes, sort of, because I listen to audiobooks. And a person can do the dishes while listening to an audiobook. So technically, I am both reading and doing the dishes. A win. The second thing in this comment was going for a walk. Again, listening to an audiobook and going for a walk can be done together. Absolutely. In fact, I would say going for a walk while listening to an audiobook improves the walk, because if it's a good audiobook, it makes you want to walk longer and get more of that book done. Now, some of the other chores in the house, such as laundry, you can put off or listen to an audiobook while doing the laundry. Cleaning the house, well, we have housemaids, so I don't have to do that often. But sometimes there are chores that build up that just have to get done. And some of those chores do accumulate in my house because I'd rather be reading. Prompt number 4. If someone tells you they wish they had as much time to read as you, do you A, find it insulting but ignore it? B, interpret it as a cry for help? C, punch them in the nose? I guess the closest answer to me would be B, interpret it as a cry for help. Because most people, whether they want to believe it or not, do have a lot of more time for reading than they would assume. Now, a lot of people watch a lot of TV, and I'm of the opinion that every minute you are watching TV is a minute wasted. There is nothing good on TV. There are no good television shows, there are no good movies, because all the movies are edited for television. So if you watch an hour a day of TV, you can instantly turn that into an hour of reading books. People watch a lot of YouTube videos, and here I'm a little bit guilty about that. I do watch some YouTube videos of my friends and some people that I don't know. I am particularly bad with spending way too much time watching political content videos and just getting angry. If I were to eliminate all those watching of political content videos, I would have a lot more time for reading. And I assume that a lot of people do the same. Now, maybe it isn't political content videos. It could be cat videos, dog videos, crocheting videos. But And a lot of times you can cut back a lot of your video watching. You can cut back a lot of your Instagram reel watching because Instagram reels are completely mindless. Yes, they can be entertaining, and occasionally you do send an entertaining reel to a friend, but really you could do with less Instagram and less YouTube and more reading. So those are the couple areas where I would encourage people that they can get more time to read, or go for a walk by listening to an audiobook. Because, not to sound like a broken record, you can multitask while listening to an audiobook and get more books read. So that is what I do when they gave me that cry for help. Prompt number 5. If there is anything else you'd rather do than read, is it something A, embarrassing, B, illegal, C, profoundly shameful, D, all of the above? Well, you know something? I would say E, none of the above. Because occasionally there are sometimes things you'd want to do that are not reading, and reading has to take second place. I will mention travel as some instance worth reading does take that second place. Because when you're on travel, whether you're in Ireland or Chicago or London, you're going to have to put aside your reading to do the travel-y things that need to be done. See the places on your bucket list. Meet friends who live in that city. And in those cases, yes, reading does take second place. But none of those things are embarrassing. B, none of them are illegal. Or C, profoundly shameful. Now, I know what Robert G. is thinking, and I'm just not going to go there. I'll let you imagine that for yourselves. And now it's time to tag some people. On a whim, I have decided to tag my co-hosts from the Short Story Summer Reading Group this August. This is an event to encourage people to read short stories. I'm going to go ahead and provide a link in the description of this video because you may be interested in reading short stories this August. And I'm going to encourage my guests of this event to do this little tag. Now, if you're not interested in doing it, don't feel obligated, of course. But in the Short Story Summer group, there is Brandy Ray, the literate Texan, Brandy, the booklectic, Crystal at Fiber Artsy, Hannah at Hannah's Books, James at Quaint and Curious Volumes, Nikki at My Messy Bookshelf, and Steve Donahue at Steve Donahue. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.